Hello, everyone. Sorry for the late start tonight, but it's kind of your fault. You filled out about 30 of these general comment forms. I had to organize them. I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad you're involved. You are here for a city council meeting, and it is Monday, October 1st, 2018, and we'll start this meeting with a roll call and determination of quorum.
Solomon, Modrick, Nordstrom, Drew, Scott, Drury, Laurenti, Roberts, Armstrong, Lewis. We have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. And tonight's invocation will be provided by Pastor Brent Reeves.
Let's pray together. Father, guide those who will participate tonight in the business to be conducted by the City Council. Enable those who participate in discussions and in making decisions that they will be made and be guided by genuine concern for the best interest of the people and by true wisdom in order to know what that is. God, I pray that those who live in Rapid City who love God revealed in Jesus Christ will always be able to lead a peaceful and quiet life, a life that is godly and dignified in every way. I ask this because it's good and it's pleasing in the sight of you, God, our Savior, who desires all people to be saved and to come to the knowledge of the truth. I also give you thanks, Father, for all who serve on this council and as officers and leaders in this city that we love. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you, and if you'll remain standing, we're going to be led in the Pledge of Allegiance by Boy Scout Troop 44, who meets at Canyon Lake Methodist Church. All right. Thank you, gentlemen. And now we need to adopt this council meeting agenda. This is a time when we can get a motion to adopt the agenda as written, or the council may make alterations to it. Is there a motion?
Second.
Motion to adopt by Jason Solomon, second by Becky Drury. All in favor of adoption of this agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I'll be coming down front for a minute for a couple of recognitions. Okay, well, we're here. This is the time in the council meeting where sometimes we recognize employees of the city who have either reached a milestone in their career or who are retiring. In this case, this is the retirement of one of our K-9 police partners, Jackson. And before Police Chief Carl Jaggeris gets started, I will tell you a little story about Jackson. I was police chief, and I heard about this new dog we were getting. And so the handler at that time brought this new dog, very beautiful dog, very relaxed dog, brought him into my office to meet me, and Jackson promptly went over to the wall and peed. I guess he felt at home. So, Chief Jaggeris.
So last Friday at our department, we had a special occasion to honor, and that was to officially honor the retirement of Jackson. Jackson served 9 years as a Rapid City Police Department member, and I have a very credible source that tells me that 9 years of service as a police dog is like 63 years in dog years of human service in any career. So 63 years is certainly a commendable career. Jackson started with Senior Officer Mark Black, who retired several years ago, and at that time he was transitioned to Officer Marcos Glass. Just about a month ago, Officer Glass was promoted to sergeant. The timing for that was just right for Jackson's retirement. Our department currently has, well, we maintain 3 canine dogs. With this retirement, we temporarily have 2, but we will be working on acquiring and training and selecting a new handler for our 3rd dog again over the next several months here. But with that, Sergeant Glass, can you tell us a little bit about your partner?
Well, this is a hard time for Jackson because he doesn't realize that he's retired. Even up to his last shift, we were called to help out with a pursuit. And during that pursuit, it came to a crash, and the suspects eventually gave up knowing that Jackson was there on scene. So even at the end, Jackson has always been hardworking. Today, as I put on his vest, he thought we were coming back to work again, and so it's really hard for him to understand that he's retired, but I think he's going to enjoy it.
I can't resist asking, after he retires, do you think he might run for mayor?
He might, he may run for mayor or for the legislature, I'm not sure. Yes, ma'am. He'll be going home with Sergeant Marcos Glass right there. He will. Yeah. I understand Marcos has a couple of other cats and so on that need a little management in the house, so Jackson's going to provide that. Well, now I'd like to invite up Scott Ingman from Black Hills Habitat. And I have an executive proclamation to read regarding World Habitat Day. And I understand we're going to get like a sermon and a speech from Mr. Ingman. Whereas 13.3% of people lived below the poverty line in South Dakota in 2017, and whereas the United Nations General Assembly has declared the first Monday in October as World Habitat Day, a time to unite in a worldwide effort to promote policies to ensure adequate shelter for all. By raising awareness and advocating for universal, decent housing, we can change the systems that reinforce poverty housing and make affordable homes a reality for all. And whereas, in its mission statement, Black Hills Area Habitat for Humanity emphasizes they build strength, stability, and self-reliance through shelter. And through thousands of volunteer hours, in-kind contributions of materials and professional services, individual and corporate donations, has helped permanently house 300 people in the Black Hills area since founding in 1990. And whereas Black Hills Area Habitat for Humanity restores have recycled over 90 tons of material in the past 4 years and will continue to address the lack of decent housing around the world while reducing environmental impact by recycling building materials through habitat restores. And whereas in recognition of World Habitat Day 2018, Black Hills Area Habitat for Humanity will continue to build and preserve simple, decent, affordable housing for families in the Black Hills. Now therefore, I, Steve Allender, Mayor of Rapid City, do hereby proclaim Monday, October 1st, 2018 as World Habitat Day and encourage all citizens to work toward the elimination of inadequate housing.
Mayor. Thank you, members of the council. Scott Ingman, Executive Director. I just really want to thank our community for the ongoing support of Habitat. I've been privileged to work with Habitat for the last 12 years and have been a part of seeing hundreds of people get helped. And we can only do that with the continued support and our good working relationship with the city. The Black Hills Knowledge Network just came out with a study, some of you are aware of it, and it's indicating that there's a need for 3,500 affordable home ownership opportunities in our community. It's about a $500 million challenge in our community if we want to get people housed in a long-term sustainable way. You know, that's a big number, and that's a big challenge. But I would also say that Habitat, since its inception around the world, has built over 1 million homes. So with God, all things are possible, and so we approach this challenge day in, day out, with the hope that we can do far more than what we hope or imagine when we have faith. Finally, I'll just make a note with the Restore. We are really blessed to have that operation running day in, day out, and so thank you for bringing materials down. With that recycling process, we know we're also extending the life of our landfill, which is a really important piece of our community and keeping our community safe and sustainable. So with that, thank you, and thank you, Mayor, for all your help.
Now we have a presentation about the Veterans Banner Program, and I would call upon Bill Casper and whoever is helping you with this.
Yeah, you guys can come up right away. Good evening, Mayor Ellender and City Council members. I want to thank you for putting me on the agenda tonight. The purpose of my appearing before you tonight is to see about the possibility of purchasing more banner hangers to put on light poles in the downtown area. The reason for this request is that the Veterans Honor Banner Project is using all available banner hangers this year to put up honoring veterans both living and dead. In fact, we have 14 more people who want to sponsor for next year already. And the need to accommodate these new honor veterans is the reason I'm here. Just a brief history of the project. We started this in 2017, and I went to Main Street Square and managed to get 18 banner hangers. And because I work with World War II veterans, we went out and got 18 people to sponsor these veterans, and we put up 18 of these banners. If you'll show them, Sue, what one of these look like. We put up 18 of these last year on banner hangers in the downtown area. They're 3 feet by 2 feet and printed on both sides, so they'll go up again this year. Thanks. Last year's banners only honored World War II veterans because that's who I work with mainly, but this year we're going to see veterans all the way from World War I up through Desert Storm. And next year we could have the possibility of having a Civil War veteran from South Dakota on one of the banners. So I'm always looking for people, Spanish-American War right up to the present, and men and women veterans. We received quite a bit of publicity last year, and so this year we have 72 more people who are sponsoring banners. So we'll be putting up an additional 72 banners this year for a total of 90. And these new banners are going to be hung on the city's banner hangers, the ones that they put the Season's Greetings banners on. So they will go from East Boulevard to West Boulevard on Main Street and St. Joe Street, and then through the Gap. And I've got another one that I'd like to show you. These are 5 feet, and this gentleman doesn't know this yet until he unrolls the banner, but he sponsored his father, and this is, so that's what they'll look like. I thought we'd surprise you a little bit with that one. I have some possible locations for more banner hangers, and I've kind of prioritized 2 of those. One of them is from East Boulevard out past the School of Mines. There are 28 light poles that could contain hangers, and it's in kind of keeping with extending the corridor that the city has talked about out past the School of Mines. The other priority I have is West Boulevard. There are 46 light poles on West Boulevard, and the West Boulevard Association is enthused about the possibility of getting hangers on them, so we can put them up there also. Cost estimates for the 5 by 2.5, they're basically just clamps that go on the light poles with a pole that's inserted in them, and they run this year's price about $65 a piece. So to put them out to the School of Mines, it cost about $1,820. The 3 by 2 hangers are a little more aesthetically pleasing, I would say. They're spring-loaded and so on. Some of you may have paid attention to the banners downtown. They're $180 a piece, and so to put 46 of those on would run about $8,400. So I am looking for an allocation for the city to purchase $10,000 worth of banner hangers. Now, I would only ask to use them from the middle of October until the end of November, so they could certainly be used for other banners as the School of Mines would see fit, or anybody else in the community. I realize this isn't the best time to ask for money for another project, being that the budget cuts, but I feel this Honor Banner project is very important, especially given our intimate contact with Ellsworth Air Force Base and the South Dakota National Guard. We are a military city, and I feel that we need to do all we can to honor our veterans. So I'd be glad to entertain any questions you might have. Good, so it's a done deal? Thank you.
We'll stay in touch.
Okay.
And there's a couple of folks that are going to speak in general public comment, which is next, but let's have them speak right here on this item. One is Stan Adelstein.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor and Council. This is a fantastic investment. What you're doing is, it's actually a capital investment, so when you think about $10,000 that are going to be used for the next 40 years, we're only asking for $250. At the same time, it fits the image of this city so perfectly. We have hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of people that comment on the statues of the presidents. This message that we care about those that have served us is so reasonable in terms of cost, because the cost of the banners themselves are all covered by the sponsors. Now, as he said, there is always a question of what do you do with your capital investment, and this is such a small piece of the total. I certainly am in support of this program. Thank you very much.
And now Dimitri Koris. Yep, same topic.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. Just a slightly different perspective. You heard the numbers and the thoughts from the previous two speakers. As you can probably tell from my accent, I grew up in Greece. And Greece was a country that suffered tremendously during the Second World War. I was just telling the mayor earlier that my mother lost 5 brothers in a period of 4 years during that war. So when I saw Bill for the first time and he showed me that banner, it invoked something very special. Because the way I look at these banners, the way I look at these servicemen and women, is the people who liberated my country of origin. So it would be, I think, an honor for them, of course, but also for the city to display its appreciation for this group of heroes. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for that presentation, and thank you, Bill and company, for the work that you're doing to honor these veterans. Very special and does not go unnoticed. Now we're on to general public comment. This is a time for members of the public to discuss or express concerns to the council on any item not on the agenda. Action will not be taken at the meeting on any issue not on the agenda, except by placement on the agenda by unanimous vote of the council members present. And for general public comment and for the other speakers tonight, we have a 3-minute time limit per person, and you can tell how you're doing by watching these lights over here. Green means go, yellow means start wrapping it up, and red means thanks for coming tonight and speaking. Okay? So, first, Joseph Updike. From Lambda Chi Alpha. Is that right? That's what I meant. Lambda Chi Alpha.
Okay. Members of the Rapid City City Council and all who are here and listening in today, thank you very much for having us here today. It's truly an honor to be here. My name is Joseph Updike. I'm a senior civil engineering major at the School of Mines, a native South Dakotan, and the current president of Lambda Chi Alpha, a fraternity based on personal values and dedication to each other and to the community.
Thanks.
I'm here today to talk about an event that my fraternity is putting on called Night in the Cold. This event is aimed at raising awareness and donations for the homeless here in Rapid City. I remember when Neil Lyda first stepped forward with the idea for Night in the Cold. Most of the other officers thought it was quite strange. He was in the secretary position at the time and not in charge of any philanthropy events, but he did it anyway. He began to reach out to businesses, other organizations, and even Mayor Allender for support for the event. He seemed determined. When he asked brothers to volunteer their time and help with the event, most of us were already aware of how committed he was to this idea, and many who could chipped in to help him out with his vision. But when he came forward with the idea that all who could would be expected to sleep outside in under freezing conditions, I'm sure you can imagine the hesitation we all felt. But last year, I remember the excitement that our fraternity secretary showed getting closer to the event. He and the group of brothers volunteering their time, effort, and sometimes money to help get the word out. Churches, businesses, organizations, charities, and individuals were all contacted all throughout Rapid City. Hardly any stone was unturned in the effort to let people know and gather support. I remember the day of the event, the speakers came, news crews came, charity workers came, and everyone who was invited to help out with the event, and yet hardly any participants other than the brothers. I remember the game stations gone unused. I remember packing away the food we didn't use because we had far more than necessary. I remember the shuffling boots, the disappointed faces, and the slaps on the back that said, "We'll do better next time." But most of all, I remember the look on Neil when I asked him how he was doing. Seeing the tears in his eyes, I heard him say, "I worked really hard on this, and no one showed up." Will we have a repeat of that same scenario, or will this be the time where we truly have an impact on those in need? If not for the event itself, please simply consider the effort that Neil has put forward. He started this when it wasn't his job, wasn't his duty, but he did it because he truly cared about having an impact on those in need. Neil is a leader on the school community, but more important, he is a leader in the Rapid City community. If for nothing else, please support this event because of the work that Neil has put forward into it. And I guess that is time. Night in the Cold is on October 13th. It starts at 3 p.m. in the Surbeck Center. And if you want to donate or find more about the event, just Google SDSMT, Night in the Cold. Thank you.
Thank you. And our next speaker is Chuck Henry.
A while back, council approved benches for Rapid Ride and that, but there's no advertising on them. The company that's supposed to be doing the advertising has not gone out to our businesses to get advertising put on those benches. So I don't know what you can do about that, but they need to get their butts going and get those advertising on there. Thank you.
Thank you, Chuck. And that's all for general public comment. Now on to non-public hearing items, items 4 through 50. And we'll open public comment on items 4 through 48. And we have quite a few speaker requests for these items. And just a reminder to watch the lights up here and a 3-minute time limit. So on item number 20. Art Zimiga.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. First of all, I'd like to say thank you for your service to Rapid City and to the outlying cities around that surround Rapid City. I know it's very difficult in making decisions, but that's why you were elected. And today is a difficult time. Today I'm here to speak on Susan. If I say anything that offends anybody here, I don't mean it to be offensive. I mean it to be helpful. And I just wanted to say that Miniluzaha, or Rapid City, or Tomahi, has been here a long time. People ask me, how long have you lived here? And I have to say, my grandparents and relatives have lived here ever since the dinosaur up here, which has turned to stone. So, but before that, we were known as, we call them Wazaza. That was a group of people that never signed no treaty. They were the different people. They were Ogalalas and Brulis. And today we have a lot of relatives that live here in this town that created what Suisan is today. You know the historical facts relating to that. I would just like to say that we have paid into the coffers as Lakota people. Mi mala washichushne, mi mala sushne, mi mala American Indian shne, mi mala Lakota, mi mala Wazaza. So when people say, Suisan, I worked there as I went to college, and it was a tuberculosis center, and the amount of funds that came into Rapid City is a fact. In my other areas, I worked as a decennial census, and the people here had a vote, the Native people, the Lakota people. And I think that's what they are asking today, that they have a fair sense to agree on this, because they're the ones that created it as a health hospital. So in your thinking, I wish you would think about that. Suisan just didn't come about by itself. Neither did Rapid City. It was done by many Lakota people that were here. I thank you for your time, and please consider giving the Lakota people a chance to vote on this. Thank you.
Okay, the next speaker has fancier handwriting than I do. So I'm going to say this is Carol Cloud Eagle. Is that correct? Did I get it right?
Yes, you did.
Oh, good.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council. Good evening, everybody. My name is Carol Cloud Eagle. I worked at Suisan for 15 years as a registered nurse. I worked days and nights and evenings, and Suisan was literally my home for 15 years. That was back when we had inpatient care. We were very busy, and I loved working there. I loved working in that area. I was shared a lot of stories about Suisan from inpatients that we had who have all passed by now. And I'm just begging, please don't move Suisan. Leave it where it is. Thank you.
And now, Jackie Arpan.
Good evening. My name is Jackie Arpan. I have lived in Rapid City for 35 years. The reason why I moved to Rapid City was because it had a health care IHS. And so my family, my grandchildren, not my great-grandbabies are using Suisan. So I was wanting to say that it's a place that I trust to bring my family there. So my plea or message is to not make a decision on it tonight. For we need more community members to inform our community. There's a lot of questions, a lot of undecided issues. So that's what I would like to tell you. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'm sorry if I get this name wrong. Jacqueline Livermont? Is that correct? All right. I'm doing good tonight.
Hello, everyone. I would just like to say that we would like to have a vote on this, moving Susan. And I've worked there at Susan as a retired registered nurse when we did everything for the patient. We had the little cranks. We cranked up their head. We cranked up their feet. We turned on the TV. No remotes. And I retired 23 years ago. And to me, when I go to Susan, I go out there because I'm ill. I want to see a doctor. And I do not want Susan moved. It's in a wonderful place. It's been there for years. And there's really no reason to move it. And I don't see why we as Native Americans do not have a vote on this. Thank you.
D. Schumacher, or Shoemaker. Maybe, ma'am, Dee, maybe we can get you a microphone. Here you go. You get a microphone.
Thank you, sir. I'm sure you're going to be able to hear me.
Yep.
Because I'm kind of loud and rowdy. But I came here this evening after hearing all of this rhubarb about moving the Susan. Now they're saying that the Susan is on special property, special land. So why is some gentleman willing to give a bunch of property that he owns to move our Susan? We have been there for years, and I know that there are many of our people, not just here, but all over this town, that their children have been raised here, their children have been healed here, the elders have had extensive care, and maybe right now things are a little on the problem side, but it can be fixed. It can be fixed. And it's not going to take $1.5 million to move it clear out next to the freeway, put $500,000 into the repair of what we've got. We have got a great place, and they're intending to tear down a lot of the buildings up there, which will make room for more medical areas. Now, I'm very much against this moving business, and I've been here a lot of years. I just celebrated my 90th birthday, by the way, my family's been here a long time. So I think that the council needs to forget about entering into the medical field with our native different communities that want to build a new hospital. I thank you, and hopefully somebody will listen. Okay?
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Teresa Spry. Teresa, if you were 90, we would bring a microphone to you too.
I seriously doubt it, but I'm well past. I'm 70, so maybe I should meet you halfway for the. I'm Teresa Spry, and I was born in Rapid City, and I'm also here to talk about the Susan. Among other things, and that the Native community obviously has not had a say of what we would like to have done. And there's a whole litany of reasons, and I definitely wrote quite a bit about the trust issues and about the Susan itself. And frankly, I don't know that the city can endorse a federal agency, because we're talking about more than one problem in doing that, especially when this community hasn't had a voice about what needs to be done. And I think that we have other problems that we need to resolve ourselves with who represents us, because the Susan was never put here other than when it was a sanitarium, but as a clinic or a hospital. It was put here because the tribes wanted nothing to do with the people who didn't live on tribal land, and that happens to be Rapid City. So we had no health care whatsoever. And in order to get health care, you had to drive to a reservation and prove that you were enrolled there or had some right to be there. But the tribes did nothing to help us. So at this juncture, when Pennington County gave the authority to the tribes to begin with to be our health care, I think was incorrect. And now we're back in the same discussion about what needs to be done. To 638, the hospital, what's going to happen to the Susan? That's trust land. I'm sure it's worth a lot of money. And secondly, if the tribes really were looking at our best interest, we wouldn't be here in the first place, because they would have lobbied for the Susan for money. And money is the biggest problem that we have in our health care. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And now Charmaine Whiteface.
I want to thank first the Legal and Finance Committee and Laura Armstrong. When I spoke to them the other day, I want to thank the committee for not giving a recommendation and instead sending this on to the City Council. And I want to thank the City Council. I realize that all the City Council and the Mayor, all of you are concerned about the health care for the Native American community here. I understand that, and I understand that's why Mayor Allender has drafted up this resolution. But like it was reported in the paper the other day, it's a very, very complicated issue, and I know I only have 3 minutes. So I gave you a handout and some of my concerns. But my supporting this effort by the Great Plains Tribal Chairman's Health Board is not necessarily going to bring good health care to the Native American community here. Others have already talked about the past history. My history with Susan, especially the physical place that it is, goes back 100 years. Both of my grandparents were children there when it was the Rapid City Indian School. My mother worked there when it was a tuberculosis sanitarium. And I have been going there since I was a teenager, and I'm 71 years old now. I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis there 46 years ago at the Susan Hospital by a doctor there. I've been an inpatient there. I know what it was like as a really good hospital. I've been at Regional too, but I would rather be at Susan among people that I know, among people that some of them were my relatives. Moving the Susan out of its current status or out of its current land place is wrong. No, no, no. It's not just treaty land, because it is treaty land, but that's a whole nother discussion. And so I will keep to the trust land status that is there at Susan. And what's going to happen to that if it is moved, because IHS will not pay for property taxes, any other kind of taxes, rent, or insurance if it is moved. And that is one of my biggest concerns, because right now the services we have at Susan are inadequate because there's not enough money for IHS to pay for all the health care needs. Secondly, I looked at Great Plains Tribal Chairman's Health Board website, and I found out that they are an advocacy organization. They are not a health management or health administrative organization. And there's a lot of certification, there's a lot of things that need to go on before you are a health management system. And so my concern is that they do not have a success rate in managing a hospital or a clinic, and so I do not believe moving the hospital or putting it under Great Plains Tribal Chairman's Health Board will bring the best health care for the Native American community. So I ask you not to approve, go along with this mayor's resolution, and to table it for a month or totally discard it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mark Lonehill.
Mr. Mayor, Council, thank you for this time. I guess I wouldn't have a problem with this Great Plains thing going on right now, but I've called out there and asked questions, and it's sort of like they're being secretive out there. They say, well, we got a meeting coming up, we'll let you know when it is. We'll get your email, and supposedly they're supposed to email me when the meetings are. And evidently, like everyone in the room here, they don't let no one know. Or if they announce it, it's the day of or the day before. There ain't enough time to go to this meeting, prepare for that. How many of you went to a meeting of theirs so far about Susan? I mean, I'm sure a lot of people up here did because they're on the board, but a lot of us Native Americans in town here haven't been there. All I'm asking is give us time to have a meeting about this, a city, all our Native American people in town here at Mother Butler, and let us have a meet about it and see what everyone has to say about it. That's all I'm asking. And like Charmaine said, if you could table it a month, let us have a meeting in 2 weeks. We could have a meeting in 2 weeks up there, and we'll decide then. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. And now William Bearshield.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. I know I've met a few of you, not all of you, the public. My name is William Bearshield from Rosebud. Just a real brief history on the Unified Tribal Health Board. I am the chairman of that health board. But, in digging into a lot of the concerns dating back to early 2012, we had a group from Rapid City come to our tribal council meeting at Rosebud with some concerns. The two main ones were with the administrator itself and with the facility. They didn't want it to go to a clinic status, but to remain in the hospital status, which it continues to be. Excuse me. Now, you know, in digging into all of the issues, the tribal council at the time, I was the chairman of our tribal health board, they just said, Mr. Bearshill, go up there and, you know, dig into this. So at the Ramcota, we had a series of meetings for pretty much 9 months to a year. And I went back and said, yes, there were some concerns and that I felt they needed to be addressed. We formed the Unified Tribal Health Board at that time. We were recognized by the Great Plains Tribal Chairmen's Association, Great Plains Tribal Chairmen's Health Board, and Indian Health Service themselves. And we continued basically to advocate for those individuals that came to us because they didn't have a tribal health board made up of elected officials like we do back on our reservation. So, make a long story short, then we got into CMS issues with our own hospitals in the Great Plains. That's documented and even goes back to 2010 with the Dorgan report and the services that were provided or not provided by Indian Health Service. So we decided that we needed to do something. Personally, myself, I was delegated by Great Plains Tribal Chairmen's Association to bring forth the concerns to the congressionals. There was four, two on the House side and two on the Senate side hearings. One of them was a field hearing actually right here in Rapid City in 2015, I believe. So the governing body of Pine Ridge, Cheyenne River, and Rosebud passed the same resolution stating that they wanted to look at alternative ways to provide healthcare services here in Rapid City to the people that utilize it. Among those come up with the Shepherd Hill site. Personally, the construction people said that we were cramped for space. The total size capacity of the new clinic would be larger than any of the three West River IHS hospitals. And so it made good sense for us to utilize the Shepherd Hill site. So with that, I have a packet, and I will leave with you here this evening those resolutions from the three tribes, from the Great Plains Health Board, the Chairman's Association, and the Unified Tribal Health Board, as we feel that since all these issues have come across with CMS and other issues, that we as tribal governments need to do something. But we do applaud the efforts of decade upon decade in history of tribal and local efforts here that have tried to do something to increase the services and bring quality health care to the people of Rapid City. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we have Oglala Sioux Tribe Council Member Richard Greenwald.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. I appreciate you having us here tonight to kind of discuss some of these issues. I became involved in these issues in the last 2 years, 3 years, kind of. Basically, I became the HHS chair for the Oglala Sioux Tribe. Working with Willie and the board that's been up here, we have met with some of your community members that did come to the meetings that I've been at, that we posted, and we'll continue to do that. We'll continue to reach out to the community membership here. We're trying to get mailing lists for all of the natives that live up here. The three tribes that we talk about are the three tribes that the United States government has governing authority over the Suisun Hospital. And I appreciate all the history and all the stuff that our families have gone through up here. Our tribal members that live up here, I have tribal members that live up here. But it was basically the community, a lot of the community members have asked for a lot of the property up there to remain. There's certain uses that they would like to use some of the buildings that are up there currently right now that are in still pretty good shape. So our thought was to maybe move this somewhere so we didn't have to demolish all the buildings that are up there right now and let the Indian community, our native relatives up here, decide what they wanted to and how they could use those buildings and make them purposeful for your guys' use here in Rapid City. By moving that, just allowed us to not have all those buildings destroyed. And that's what's going to happen when this new building goes up. If we don't get an alternate site, those buildings will all go away. You will not be able to use them anymore. They'll just be gone. And there's a push even by IHS to tear down the old hospital, which is still probably could be used for a treatment center or something like that, to that effect. So by doing this, it wasn't just something that has happened overnight and nobody knew about it. And we'll continue to try to advertise, get in the newspapers and things that we're doing. But we want to work with the community on something that's going to be nice for everybody. But let's be honest, IHS has failed everybody. It's failed our tribes back at home, and it's also failed up here. It's not doing an excellent job here. You know, it's not. And so our tribes, if you look across the United States, self-determination, and it's called 638, tribes across this nation have taken over their hospitals, and guess what? They're doing really fine. They got the bureaucracy out of the way, and they start running their hospitals like a business, and they made money. They've made so much money that they were able to start specialty clinics, orthopedics, pediatrics, dentists. So when you go up there, you don't have to either have your tooth pulled or filled, and that's it. Maybe we're going to do braces, and maybe we're going to do fillings and dentures and different things that you can't do right now. That is our vision. So if we're guilty of anything, it's of having a vision for something better for all of our people, even our relatives here in Rapid City. I have a lot of relatives. The Oglala Sioux tribe has probably around 10,000 members living up here in Rapid City, one of the largest membership there. But we don't just serve our 3 tribes. Through them doors last year, over 250 other tribes across this United States walked into that door for help last year because they were sick or something was going on. I don't know who, in their bright mind and wisdom, said we wanted to turn that back into a clinic and let's get rid of the hospital. That's not none of our tribe's intention. So okay, we'll go along and we'll play the game with the government and we'll open this clinic. It's gonna be huge. 3 football fields long, 4 stories high. There's 300 people that are going to be moving into this new hospital. Our own mayor, where are we going to put all of them? There's not enough housing up here for them. We have somebody, a millionaire, somebody that's here, an investor that wants to build homes and apartments out at this new place so that they have somewhere to live. Right now, our new employees ain't going to have nowhere to live. There's 300 additional employees on top of the 200 that are there right now that are going to be part of this new hospital, this new clinic. So there's a dream. We're guilty of having a dream, and we're probably guilty of not getting out to everybody like we should, but we don't have a closed door. Every meeting that we have is consisted of 2 tribal representatives from each one of these tribes and 3 of our own community members here in Rapid City. And we'll continue to reach out to the Native community. I think our next meeting is going to be right in the heart of Lakota Homes or else at Mother Butler, where we can have more input from the community on what our thing is. What do you want to do with the buildings that are there instead of tearing them down? What can we use them for? Shelter, women's shelter, treatment center programs. We're not giving up the land. We're not giving up the stuff there. We're just moving the location so we can have that available for you guys. End of that. Sorry if I went over there.
Thank you. Okay, now let's hear from Rosebud Sioux Tribe President Rodney Bordeaux.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Yeah, I just recently been elected president of our tribe. Over the last month, I've been finishing up my 4th week in office. I was president of my tribe from 2005 to 2012. And yeah, I know you all hear the stories about the Indian Health Service. It's never going to get better. Whatever they do in terms of Indian health care, whether it's on the Rosebud, the Pine Ridge, Cheyenne River, Standing Rock, anywhere in the Great Plains, anywhere throughout the United States where they're actually running the hospitals, they're doing a terrible job, and they will never improve upon that. I support the concept of the Susan expanding its services. At one time, we talked about it being a kind of a regional center for all of the tribes in the area so that they can have specialty care. Given that Rosebud is probably one of the most isolated reservations within our region, we cannot attract doctors. They just don't come there because of the school systems are not up to par for what they want their children to go. Also, the services that are provided on the reservation are pretty much non-existent, so that's why you see an influx of tribal members, not only from Rosebud, but for all the reservations, coming to Rapid City almost on a weekend basis. So I envision the Susan as that regional hub or that regional center where we can get our better health care. And I support the fact that we need to compact the Indian Health Service Hospital. Whether organization we develop, it's still in the works, but we have to do that because the IHS will never, ever improve that. In regard to the community, I know several community members here, and my mother did go to school. My mother and my aunt went to school at Rapid City at the Susan before it was turned into a sanatorium and then the IHS clinic, so I have some little history there. But in regard to moving a facility and the like, I think something needs to be done. And I have to go with what the Tribal Council of the Rosebud Sioux Tribe has established for that. And if it's saying move it, I'll have to go along with that. But I'm not against listening to members of the Rapid City community and hearing them out and hearing their concerns. And I'd like to come to some meetings for that. And I would want to come up and listen to Mr. Lonehill, Ms. Whiteface, Ms. Livermont, Mr. Zimica, and all the ones that spoke that want the facility stayed up there. But I think we have to really look at some issues here. And it's a very serious issue. So as I get up to speed, I will continue to work with the community, my tribe, and also I work with you as well. And I appreciate this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Oglala Sioux Tribe Vice President Darla Black.
Mitanku yo yasi. Toka hea duai ahi huni ki lena wopila chichap. Good evening, Mayor, Council. First of all, I want to say that I was at those meetings and I spoke to preserve the buildings for the history. And also, I think all the 7 Oceti Shakoi tribes can tell you we need a treatment center, centralized, to serve our people. That would be ideal. And secondly, I work with a lot of the young people. I work with them in trying to promote education. And one of the biggest problems that we have, and I'm sure it's across the Oceti Shakoi, is jobs. This move would create over 400 jobs for our people. And it's jobs that bring our people over here. Lack of housing. And a lot of our people are here. I support change because in all my years working in 28 years of law enforcement, I saw change. Some people may not like the changes, but how are we going to move forward? And for our younger generation, like my colleague said, IHS Healthcare has failed us over and over. To 638 would bring a different management in. A management that can look at our people and serve our people in an adequate way. I listen to my elders. One is from my district. But we need change. The 3 tribes involved in this govern Susan. And we have a non-native person that donated 20 acres to help us with a beautiful vision, a vision of hope, a vision of change, a vision so we can work side by side with you to help us. We need partners. And tonight I ask that you support the next 7 generation that would create this change. We are asking for your support. We are asking you to help us with this vision. And for some odd reason, I keep meeting Mayor Ellender here and there. But thank you so much. And I too have respect for my elders that are here, but we have to think forward. Mitakwe Oyasi.
Thank you. Now, earlier we ran out of some speaker request forms. Or someone else from from this group would like to speak? If you could just please introduce yourself.
My name's Richard Boyd. I'm from Rapid City. I've lived here, I don't know, 13 years or so. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council, for giving us this opportunity to voice our concerns. Above all that's said, and that will be said, the main thing, the main drive, the main agenda about everything is a better health delivery for our people. That's why we are so adamant about all the concerns coming from employees, coming from members of the community. I belong to and I'm chairman of the Rapid City Inn and Health Committee. When we started, we brought Mr. Willie Bearshield in to form his committee because we are not associated with any tribes up here, as you well know, or should know. So this is where we got all of our authority from. Yes, we do, and we are asking for your support to help us better that health care for our people. All the people that I've talked to, the ones that was all for our new hospital here. Some of them, though, asked me, was a little concerned about it. They didn't quite know whether they really wanted that or not. So all I asked them was, do you want to go back to or stay with IHS in the way they had been treating us? All the ills and maiming, deaths that they have given to our people? When you talk in that tone and give them some realistic figures and conversation, they change your mind. We're not into it for a new hospital per se. That wasn't our main thrust. We all got to remember the main thrust is a better health delivery. The hospital, all this other things are secondary because we have to have those to give us a good healthcare system. I don't like to get rushed, but I see that yellow light beacon up there, so I thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council, and members here. And I, too, applaud even the people, they're friends of mine, that have gotten up and spoke. We're all entitled to our views. But I encourage everybody to really look at what we have seen. We've had meetings, invited the whole communities. Look at where we're at. Look at the statistics and all of the viewpoints that we feel we need to. Oh, the red came up. But I treasure everybody's concern about this, and I hope that everybody is like us and not only put our heart for all the people, but our brains here. We have a lot of ancestors over here that are looking at us now. Everybody. Even you sitting up there. And if we want to take that dream, let's take them with us. We are doing this for all of our Tacoshas and all the people that we love. So thank you. I better shut up and thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Mayor, Mr. Boyd forgot to mention that he is a community member that was elected to our committee. When the tribes got together, there was 2 from each tribe, and that was going to be the end of it. That was just going to be the committee right there, but the committee chose that we wanted to involve the community, so we elected 3 community members from the Indian Native population here to sit on our committee to make decisions for the Rapid City natives that are here. So he is one of our board members that sit on the committee. So.
All right, thank you. Yes.
Ms. Weiscarver, Ms. Bryan, Mr. Zimica, and I are going to try to plan a meeting within a week and a half up at the Mother Butler.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, next we have anyone else over here? Could you please introduce yourself, sir?
My name is C.J. Clifford, and I'm from the Oglala Sioux Tribe, a representative. I respectfully invite you guys back home to each reservation to address the council on their decision-making as far as representing us and the Indian Health Service. I too have many experiences coming in and out of these hospitals up here. And currently right now, each reservation, including Siouxsan, has no major health care program within them, so we got to go to regional. It's a lot of money, that millions and millions of dollars that are being spent. But under the self-determination 93-638, we set our own direction. We've been governed by the United States government for way too many years. I started my career back in 1988 underneath the Self-Determination Act of 1975, and I'm a strong advocate for it. I'm also a strong advocate in self-determination through education, which I also represent from the Oglala Sioux Tribe for a great number of years, 27 years. And it's all based on self-determination, and we haven't failed in that area. But the Indian Health Service has failed us as Indian people. The care has been inadequate. I have stories of my own that says Siouxsan didn't give me the right services. My own experiences, my own emergencies. Instead, they shipped me out to regional. I appreciate that because I got the health care that I needed, and I'm able to stand here today and address everybody. But on the other hand, we can do this, and it is for the future. I'm a very proud South Dakotan and also very proud Oglala. I grew up here. I too have family up here, and I care about their health care. But right now, when emergencies happen, does Siouxsan take care of them? They don't. They sent off to regional. If regional is overloaded, they send them to Scotts Bluff, Sioux Falls, other hospitals, but still, ultimately, the monies that are appropriated from Congress are appropriated through the tribes. That's how the monies work. So, no disrespect to anybody. this has been in the making for a number of years. I too have been sitting at this table for the past 4 years. The meetings have all been open. Various people came. They had an opportunity to address the health board. You know, it's very unfortunate that all of a sudden at the last minute that, well, yeah, I don't like that thought. Well, at the last minute, we also very fortunate for Shepherd Hills to be being donated to the tribes, which if everything works 1, 2, 3, that land will be reverted back to trust land, which is a benefit for all of us. But you're more than welcome to come home and address the tribal councils respectfully and let them understand, let them know, go back to each tribe that you're from. I think that in tribal leadership, this is where we deal with the mayor and the council, that this is not a place to set disagreements. This is a place of business, and that's exactly the way we're taking it. It's business. Healthcare is a business. Regional is making millions and millions of dollars, and with the healthcare system that we're planning with and going forward with here is in the fact that it's going to benefit all of us and others, because healthcare services are not allowed to turn anybody away. So with that, I want to thank the council and the mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. And now Bev Warren.
Good evening, everyone. Mayor, council members, Mitakuyepi. I too am a nurse. I graduated from Rapid City Nursing School back when they had St. John's McNamara School of Nursing. I graduated in 1962, so you can do the math. I've been a nurse for a long time, and I care about our people. And I'm still working at South Dakota State University, College of Nursing here in Rapid City. And my job is to recruit, support Lakota students who are wanting to become nurses. That's an ideal way to wind up my career, to do something for my own tribe, to do something about health care for our people. I mentor every one of those Lakota students, pre-nursing and nursing. And every one of them has said to me at one time or another, I want to give back. I want to stay here and do something. So I think as community leaders here on the res and in the urban community need to step forward and support those students that are saying this. They're not quite there yet, but they're studying hard to get there. And when I heard about this possibility of having a wonderful new medical center, I think that our program needs to grow so we can grow our own. I think that I do know that there are many, many students who want to become nurses. When I started this job 3 years ago, one of my first tasks was to create an advisory board. One of the people I asked was the vice president of OLC, Dawn Frank. And before the first board meeting, she did a survey of the 9 OLC campuses on the reservation, including Rapid City, and asked one simple question: how many of you are in college to become a nurse? 204. And we know majority of them will not reach their dream. We need to help them reach their dream of becoming a nurse. Most of their issues are poverty-based. So we need more scholarships, we need more stipends, we need to call on the tribal leaders who spoke tonight. Help us with stipends and scholarships for those students, because the program is there. It was sanctioned by the Board of Regents a couple months ago. We are now known as a Native American Nursing Education Center. I have great hope when they decided to make it sustainable. It's there to stay. So tonight I came here with the idea of just listening, but I couldn't stand it. I had to say this. I do know that there's a wonderful history on the lands at Suisan. We need to honor that because it was our people who suffered up there. Our children, our patients. I had relatives that died up there with TB. I get emotional about that too. I care about that. We need to keep it and use it for our people because it belongs to us.
Thank you, Beth. Okay, now on item 23, Chuck Henry.
I don't know if I can follow all that. I know a while back I talked about people that are attempting suicide, committing suicide, and that. As I look at 23, Jason explained it earlier to me what it was about, and I totally agree with that. As long as they're able to respond to these attempted suicides, so suicides can be stopped instead of getting permanent. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that takes us through the public comment period for these items. Now we're on to consent items 4 through 48. This is a time when the council can approve all of these items with one vote, or they can pull select items off for separate consideration. We'll go to Jason Solomon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Pull item 20, please.
Amanda Scott.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to pull item number 48.
Okay, any other items? If not, can we have a motion? We have a motion from Amanda Scott to approve all of the items with the exception of 20 and 48, and that was seconded by Jason Solomon. All in favor of that motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 20, to approve resolution number 2018-073, a resolution declaring support for the relocation and construction of a new Indian Service hospital in Rapid City. And if you wouldn't mind, since I put this item on the agenda, I'd like to say a few things about it. And that is how we got to this point. For approximately the last year, I and some other members have been speaking with tribal officials from Cheyenne River, Rosebud, and Pine Ridge. Also speaking with the Unified Tribal Health Board about this and other issues. Just to clarify what's on the agenda tonight, item 20, this is a statement of support from the City Council to pursue an alternative location for a healthcare facility. This is not, the City Council of Rapid City is not a decision-making authority in federal issues, in tribal issues. Our authority spans the city limits of Rapid City, essentially. Recently, in the reporting of this item, several statements made, some of them made by me. I've been around, I've not been a patient of, but I have been around Suisan Hospital for decades and have seen the decline from an inpatient hospital to what it is today. And every day in my former career, and some days in this career, I get to see those folks left out left without adequate health care, and those who are referred to Rapid City Regional Hospital because of it. My statements and this issue on the agenda tonight is not to criticize the employees of Susan Hospital. I'm sure they're doing the best they absolutely can to provide what service they are allowed to provide, but it is not enough in my opinion. This is not to criticize the intent or the effort of those that had to do with establishing Susan Hospital and have supported it in its years here in Rapid City. I've been in meetings with Susan officials who have declared that the physical location of Susan Hospital is a detriment to the Indian people of Rapid City because of the transportation difficulties that are seen throughout Rapid City. In fact, some of them have suggested a more central location that could be more easily accessed by the native people. This resolution on the agenda tonight poses no threat to the Susan land or the Indian Trust land. It is not part of a scheme for the city to take over any land. That is not possible for the city to do that. There's no fine print on this that would allow us to do that. This is a general statement of support, but I also want to just point out that these three tribes are not the three tribes to unify and start going down this path of independence from IHS. As of 2011, there were 566 federally recognized Indian tribes in the United States, and at that time, 7 years ago, there were 337 of them participating in the Tribal Self-Governance Program through IHS. I'm told today that it's over 400. And the Tribal Self-Governance Program is operating now in 10 of the 12 IHS regions in the United States. So I didn't expect this to generate the hard feelings that it has. I do understand that this is a complicated issue and that I am not one who knows all of the details. But I do believe that our contacts with the tribes over the last year and our meetings with those tribal officials have something to do with the reason that we put this on the agenda for support. The goal here, as the gentleman said earlier, is better health care. I believe that in all the things in Rapid City having to do with the Native American population, there's a lot of issues that come up from time to time, and people like me, that is, politicians or city government officials, oftentimes feel helpless because there's really nothing we can do to resolve some of the issues that come up. But I believe this is one issue when we can give a general statement of support to a group of tribes who are trying to create a better health care system in Rapid City. The Indian Health Care Service, from my eyes as an eyewitness and from talking to hundreds of Native American people, this is a crisis in Rapid City. And I'm glad someone is trying to do something about it. And there will not be 100% consensus. There never is. So, having said all that, let's go to Alderman Jason Solomon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for your words. I move to approve. If I can get a second, I retain the floor.
Second by John Roberts. Go ahead.
Thank you, and I will, you took a lot of the words right out of my mouth, so I will keep it very brief. I support this for two reasons. For one, I agree. You deserve better health care than what IHS has provided. I think clearly the people who work at Susan and on these hospitals do the best that they can, but with the resources that they have. But I believe you deserve better. I was moved by many of the things I heard tonight. But one thing I want to clear up, because I received several comments this last week, was that the Rapid City wanted to take the Susan lands. That is not our intention. That does not belong to the city of Rapid City. We intend for that to be figured out outside of this body. That is not our intention whatsoever. Our intention is that you have the health care that you deserve. And so that's why I support this. Thank you.
Becky Drury.
Thank you, Mayor. I also agree that the reason this has all come about is because of better health care. I don't want to see any no votes tonight mean that anyone up here is against better health care for the Native community, because that's what it wouldn't be. I, for one, am going to vote no, simply because I think seeing the audience tonight, there is a segment of this community that feels left out of the process, and I don't believe that goes along with your culture. Everyone should be included in this process, and I agree there should be a couple meetings, or your meeting should be held up at Mother Butler, and everybody should be included. And I think what came about tonight was a very good process. Everyone got to have a say, and how wonderful is that? And I want everybody to have their say. But I think that there are so many people that came tonight. I mean, I listed them all, but I lost track of how many there were. But there were over a dozen people here that felt left out. And if there were a dozen people that actually showed up tonight and actually made the effort to come to a city council meeting that felt left out, you know there's hundreds out in the community that feel left out of this process. So I would prefer that it be delayed, that this decision be delayed for a month to give them an opportunity to have a say in the process. So I will be voting no, because I don't think that we have a segment of the population that's being represented. Thank you.
John Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And yeah, this is a difficult one. But on one hand it is, one hand it isn't. I think anybody that's had any contact, family that's had contact, friends that have had contact with Susan over the last 5 to 7 years, since it's really started declining more. I want to tell a real quick story, and I'm not a real big storyteller, but about 7 years ago, a really, really close friend of mine started going to Susan quite regularly because something was wrong, and they could not figure out what was wrong with him, and they could not figure out what was wrong with him. And after a couple of years, he was almost dying, and they finally referred him to Regional Hospital, and all it was his gallbladder. It wasn't something that would have been that difficult in a full-service hospital. But he went through 2 years of not being able to work, not being able to support his family, not being able to hold his children. I mean, this man was almost bedridden. And, you know, I don't want to see that happen to anybody else that I know, that I'm related to, that, you know, I think that this is going to be a wonderful opportunity for the Native community. I think this is not only going to create a lot of jobs, but it's going to give you the health care you have deserved for decades. And, you know, Susan is going to be there. It's going to be a part of tribal land. And maybe there's that possibility of doing something really fantastic with that property, something that really the tribes really deserve to have in this area. So I think there's a lot of opportunity on both sides of this. I think this is something that should have happened a decade ago, and I support it. And I think that with the tribal chairmanship here now and hearing your concerns, I think they're going to open up meetings. I think you're going to have your say. You know, but like anything else, you're never going to have 100% of the population saying yes. There's always going to be people saying no. And for us, you know, that's a decision we have to make every other week. You know, we vote for one thing that half the people don't like, and then the next thing we vote for, the other half the people don't like. So we have to, that's something we have to do. We have to put on our big boy pants and make a decision. So anyway, thank you.
Okay, the item on the floor is for approval of item number 20. All those in favor of approval say aye. Aye. Opposed? Nope. Motion carries with 1 no. Now on to item 48. Authorize Mayor and Finance Office to sign an agreement between the City of Rapid City and FMG Engineering for professional engineering services for Perrine and unnamed tributary drainage basin design plans, amendment Phase 2, in the amount of $146,196. This item was continued from September 17th. Amanda Scott.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to make the motion based on staff's recommendation to send this back to the Public Works meeting on October 30th, which I believe is a Tuesday. If I can get a second, thank you.
Second from John Roberts.
There's been a lot of interest, and if I've missed anything, Mr. Del Tech would chime in, but primarily this, at this point, since it's been delayed so long, it needs a full review, as well as some other questions answered from some applicants.
Okay, motion and second on the floor is to postpone this to October something.
October 30th.
October 30th, Public Works meeting. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And that takes us through our consent items. Non-consent items 49 and 50. Open public comment on these two items, and we have a couple of speaker requests on item number 50, and we'll start with Mike Derby.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Mike Derby, 3934 Park Drive, Rapid City. I'm also the owner of Canyon Lake Resort and Reunion Lodge, and I'm a licensed realtor here in Rapid City. I have been following the accessory dwelling units through Coffee with Planners, and I did speak at the last planning and zoning meeting. I'm just going to sum up my comments from the standpoint that I would feel personally, I'm not speaking on behalf of any groups, but I would feel better if the short-term rental ordinance that you'll be looking at soon in the near future, I understand, if that was passed first before you then tackle the ADUs, the accessory dwelling units. Only from an owner of a lodging facility, I'm particularly concerned about the number of days that it says that you have to rent it for more than 28 days. I would prefer that it be a longer period of time, say 90 days, to prevent people from utilizing those accessory dwelling units for Airbnb, VRBO, and whatever comes down the road, because we in the lodging industry know those aren't going to go away, but they need to be regulated, taxed, and the neighbors need to know what's going on in their neighborhood, quite honestly. At our facility, we converted the owner's house to a lodging facility because we're a commercial operation. It's a house. The owners lived there for 15 years. We had to sprinkle it, and we had to pave the parking. Well, you all know what that costs. It was a great deal of money to do that, and we did it because that was the ordinance and that was the rules. So ADUs, I'm concerned about the 28 days. Particularly, that's 12 rental units throughout the year. Could be to 12 different people throughout the year. And you could use it for you could sign a 29-day lease, but just rent it and have them stay in it 3, 7, or 10 days at whatever rate you can get for it. And then the next month, there's something big happening in Rapid City, you rent it to somebody else, and you rent it to somebody else. So if this ordinance moves forward, if I can't get the short-term rental ordinance in place prior to this, I would at least ask that you move the period that someone can rent this, because we're not against affordable housing. If they truly want affordable housing, it'll be affordable housing. But if they're going to use it for short-term rentals, that's my biggest issue. Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Thank you. Gene Kesloff.
Hi, my name is Jean Kesloff, and I live on 12th Street in the Historic District. I bought a house there because of the sense of place in a historic district. Single-family dwellings. The West Boulevard Neighborhood Association has worked for 42 years trying to protect the historic district, get some of the houses turned back into single-family dwellings like what they were built for. The city made a commitment to this community when the historic district was put on the National Register of Historic Places. It's Rapid City's only residential historic district. It is continually being encroached upon, as just recently when the northeast side of the boulevard from South Street to Omaha was rezoned and absorbed into the downtown, thus allowing for a convenience store or a coffee shop to be built right on the boulevard. The integrity of the historic district is being compromised. It is a sense of place when you drive down the boulevard or in the district that you are in a historic district. I just ask that you leave the historic district alone. Thank you.
Thank you. And Pat Roseland.
Pat Roseland, 1318 West Boulevard. Mayor, City Council, appreciate you listening to me again. I'm president of the West Boulevard Neighborhood Association, though I'm not speaking for them. I'm speaking for the mission statement of the West Boulevard Historic District. And the purposes of the West Boulevard are to protect the West Boulevard area from commercial encroachment, to preserve and promote its integrity as a residential neighborhood, and to maintain the designated historic district. And as Jean said, we've been working on this for 42 years. Myself, I've purchased 3 homes in the West Boulevard district, and 2 of those homes were rentals or apartment buildings when I rented them. Right now, both of those are single-family homes. And it took a while for me to get that done because it cost money to do that. And I lost money because I had rentals for 2 years and or probably 5 years in one of my houses, but each time someone left, I said I'm not going to have an apartment there anymore, and finally I made it so I got a 5-bedroom, 3-bath house out of that house once I got it all done, but it took 10 years to do it. My goal is to protect the West Boulevard Historic District. It's a beautiful area. As Jean said, it's the only historic residential district in Rapid City. The unknown of what the accessory dwelling units can bring to the historic district to me is a little bit frightening. Garages can be turned into places to live. You can build little buildings on spare, I guess, on your lots if you have room for them. You got to have parking for those places, which will take up lawn space or whatever. And I just wish that, I think it's a wise thing to do just to really be aware of what's going on in the historic district, because it is an unknown. There are B&Bs on 9th Street. I know of 2 that just started opening up in the last few months. They're just renting out a bedroom or a place downstairs, and they're busy. They're doing it all the time, and they're not licensed. And so who knows what's going to be happening to that house sooner or later once they're, I think, get a hook into what's going on here with B&Bs. I really feel like the West Boulevard Neighborhood Association and Historic District are going to be aware of what's going on, or keep an eye on what's going on, and you may be seeing myself or quite a few others up here in the near future, just to protect our area that we live in. And thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you. That's all of our speaker requests on those items. So we'll close the public comment, and we'll go to ordinances, starting with number 49, second reading ordinance number 6283, an ordinance regarding supplemental appropriation number 6 for 2018. Motion to approve by Scott, second by Roberts. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 50, first reading ordinance 6249, an ordinance amendment to allow for accessory dwelling units in residential districts. We'll go to Amanda Scott.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to make a motion to continue this item to the next council meeting. If I can get a second, I'll explain why.
Second by John Roberts. Go ahead.
Thank you. This ordinance, I don't see it as being timely. In other words, I think we've got time to discuss it and really understand what we're passing as a city council. It passed the Planning Commission barely, 4-3. So far, I've had questions from some constituents up in my area about what this really means to people. And I will let you know, I've put on my citizen hat, and I've put on my property owner hat, and I've put on my city council hat. And if I had to vote on it tonight, it would be a no. So I think we all need a little bit more time. I do not think Rapid City needs us at this time, and right now I think it is a detriment to the citizens and property owners the way I read it. So I think we need just some more time, or at least I do. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, Lisa Modrick.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to add to that because I think the Planning Commission and the discussion, the lengthy discussion, was heard by staff, and I think as well what we're hearing tonight, but both by Mr. Derby as well as from West Boulevard side of things, the historic side from Jean and from Pat, that there's some things that need to be really worked on. One of the things that was addressed by the Planning Commission was why 28 days, as Mr. Derby is saying, and the statement, out of all respect, was, well, February is 28 days. It was trying to do it by a month term. But when you look at rentals, the average rental is a 6-month rental. Usually your lease has to be 6 months. So that's really a term that's normal in rental facilities, whether it's apartments or homes. And I don't think that this has been really, I think those questions that have been brought forward to the staff need to come back as answers to us. And with what Amanda had said, that's going to help us make decisions because we don't have enough on this. I also super appreciate the fact that we've been talking about short-term rentals for a long time, but we need to make sure we're doing the short-term rental, which is an issue that's been heightened over a couple of years now on our dais, and align that with long-term rentals. We need them both to come together so we're making really good decisions instead of flying one forward now and then coming back and going, oh, look at the hiccup we made on the long-term rental, but we'll make up for it on the short-term. I think there's too many variables. So to get us forward in an appreciation of all the staff time, I know there's been a tremendous amount of time on short-term rentals as well as this, I think we do need more information to really make it clear to all of us. So I would hope the staff will come back loaded with those answers to all these questions that we've been hearing now for over a week and beyond. Thank you.
Okay, motion and second on the floor is to delay this item, postpone this item until the October 15th City Council meeting. Let's hear from Community Planning real quick.
Mayor and Council, I would respectfully request that staff have an opportunity tonight, if not also again when this comes back, to make a presentation and perhaps even answer some of those questions that are here. I think we have answered them already at the Planning Commission level, but sometimes answers are not completely taken. We have a very detailed presentation that one of our staff members, which is unable to come back to our next meeting, and because of commitments will be unable to do so again for quite some time, prepared to give that presentation tonight. I would really request that we have an opportunity to make a staff presentation tonight.
Okay, let's go to John Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You know, if the rest of the council wants that, I'm fine with that. But, you know, I think one of the reasons that I would like to see this postponed is because we've got 3 members that are missing tonight, and I'd like to see more of a discussion. And I can't imagine that you know, Ken or somebody else can't give this presentation. So, you know, I personally don't see the reason for it tonight unless it's absolutely necessary or you feel like it's necessary. But, you know, one of the things that kind of worried me about looking at this ordinance is when we were talking about this months and months and months ago, one of the things that I was hoping that this would cover is all of the non-conforming duplexes we have in Rapid City. I mean, you know, that's where I'm looking at finding some type of relief for these people that have all of these properties that are going into disrepair because they cannot do anything with them. And I'm not talking about the West Boulevard Association, Gene, don't look so sad. I'm talking about mostly North Rapid, where I live, and you know, I've lived for a long, long time. I see a lot of these properties, people buy them, they run them into the ground, and they know there's nothing they can do with them. They come in and they try to pull building permits. The lot's not big enough, they don't fall into zoning, they don't, you know, so they're either gonna make them no longer rent them as a duplex, or they're gonna make them convert it back to a single-family home. And, you know, that's why you see a lot of these properties fall into disrepair, and we have a lot of these problems out there that we have. And I was hoping somehow this would, you know, help take care of some of those issues. And then going back to the ordinance that's out there right now, you know, mostly what's in here we could deal with within zoning. We don't even have to write an ordinance. So, you know, one of the things that I've heard from people calling me is, and, you know, I'm just going to call it the way it is, people are saying, I see this ordinance as another way for the city to get another fee. Because, you know, really there's nothing in there. I mean, if I have a duplex and I have a renter in the basement and I go in and I want to do whatever, or I want to build it and I'm living there now, what happens when I move out 6 months from now? I mean, we're not going to have the staff to go around and check every single one of these. And, you know, I just see us writing an ordinance that really doesn't have a lot of teeth to it. And, you know, it may be a wonderful way to generate a little more income, but I don't see there being really much to it. So, anyway, thank you.
Jason Solomon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Out of respect to the staff, I would like to have them at least give the presentation so that we can hear it and those who are missing can stream it. And then for our conversation, I'm all for dealing with this down the road. And I have thoughts I'll save. But I think out of respect to the staff, I'd like to hear their presentation that they developed for us and for the public, not just us, but the people that are watching. So. If it's okay with the rest of the council, can we please allow that?
Ken?
I think as an alternate recommendation, we feel that perhaps it would be a good idea to, yes, continue this, but in the meantime, let us schedule a work session where we can have good conversation, not just presentation and such, but that we have good conversation and actually answer the questions. And let us do that outside of an official city council meeting, and then we can reschedule it for approval.
Mr. Young, if that's for the next 2 weeks, that's going to be tough to get that many council members together. That's what you're talking about?
Doesn't have to be in the next 2 weeks.
Okay, so you're fine with just delaying this for
It's not a matter
while.
of time. It's just a matter of doing it, I think, in the best manner.
Okay, the current motion is to delay this till October 15th, if that's...
Mayor, if I can make an amendment to my motion?
Go ahead.
If it's okay then with staff, I'd like to table this item so that it can be brought back after a vetted session or sessions as needed. So I'd like to table. And I realize there's no discussion on a table.
Okay, the seconder is fine with that. There's no discussion on a tabling motion, so let's vote on whether or not we table item 50. All in favor of tabling, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 50 is tabled until further notice. Now, public hearing items 51 through 56. There are no speaker requests for those items. Consent items 51 through 55. Would anyone like to pull any of those items or vote for them? We'll go to Jason Solomon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I need to pull item 55, please.
Okay, any others?
Move to approve 51 through 54.
Second.
Okay, motion to approve 51 to 54 from Scott, second by Drury. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 55, Fiesta Tequila Mexican Restaurant LLC, doing business as Fiesta Tequila Mexican Restaurant, 1001 East North Street for a retail malt beverage and South Dakota farm wine license. We'll go to Jason Solomon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not going to make the motion. I'm going to allow Pauline Sumption to explain why I pulled this item.
Okay, Pauline Sumption.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Late in the day, it came to our attention that they still have not met the stipulation to get their conditional use permit, so I would request that this be continued for 30 days so that staff in the planning department could work with them to, they can't serve until they have the CUP anyway, and so until they have that, we technically shouldn't be approving their license.
Okay, is there a motion to that effect?
Move to continue.
Who makes a motion? Richie Nordstrom makes a motion to continue to the first council meeting in November. Who seconds?
I did.
Lisa Modrick. Okay, all in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 56, second reading, ordinance 6274, an ordinance amending section 17.06 of chapter 17 of the Rapid City Municipal Code, a request by KTM Design Solutions for Black Hills Capital LLC for rezoning from general agricultural district to medium-density residential district for property generally described as being located east of Valley Drive and west of Copperfield Vista. The recommendation was to continue, committee recommendation, continue to October 15th City Council meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Amanda Scott and second by Drury. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Bill list, we'll go to Pauline Sumption.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There are no additions to the bill list, so the total is that which is attached at $9,813,861.96.
Motion to approve by Richie Nordstrom and a second by John Roberts. All in favor of that, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Motion.
Okay.
Solomon and Roberts.
Solomon and Roberts made a motion to adjourn, and someone else bellowed out a second. So is there any objection to adjourning this meeting? No. We're adjourned. Thank you.